2020. Once, as a number, the only thing you were associated with was that of perfect vision. A saying to express you were able to see clearly without impairment, a perfect clarity to what lay ahead. What halcyon days they were. You see, now 2020 will go down in historical lore as the time that sanity forgot. It will be remembered as a year where the phrase, "it can't get any worse," was disproved again and again and again. A time that will not just live in infamy, but utter jaw-dropping disbelief. And yet it's almost a lark to me. You see, much like everyone else, I was looking forward to 2020. A year of a new beginnings. The joke around various social media platforms was that 2019 was such a horror show. 2020 represented a new dawn, a new day, a new life for, well, all of us. It was a new decade after all. A mental barometer for starting afresh in terms of calendar years. Well, after the millennium, of course, but we won't be around to see that again. Well, one hopes. For me, though, that was doubly true. By the end of 2019, my wife had decided to end our marriage. My work had decided to end my contract. And my living arrangements had decided to end altogether. I was invading the sofa of a good friend with an ever-growing deterioration of mental health along for the ride. How could it get any worse? Especially when you're at rock bottom. If you recall, it all began with a whole country on fire. Now, I'm not talking about one of your small countries like Luxembourg or whatever. No. Such an inferno would be too easy. Too insignificant for your average Joe. No. 2020 decided to kickstart the year by going big and setting fire to Australia. Now, in retrospect, one can't be surprised by this. I mean, I wasn't. The fine cocktail of global warming, we're being situated on what can be best described as the furnace part of the globe. The result is going to be some quite warm conditions, but the sheer scale, the sheer horror of the fact that Australia wasn't just boiling hot, but spontaneously combusting, it just made jaws drop. It was one of those things that you couldn't fathom, despite the obvious triggers that mentioned before. There was no hyperbole in the news reports. Australia was literally on fire. How could things get any worse? Well, there's Brexit. But I'm not a political man. Hell, I'm a political cynic, if anything. Mostly liberal, but aware that politics is no longer about what's doing best for the country. It's about what's best for a small minority. A minority that have money and investments. So in a weird sociopathic way, it's still about what's doing best for the country. Just a shame that the people aren't what's best anymore. In other words, Brexit, a variable cluster of bad decisions, confusing statements, and good old-fashioned racism. Obviously, I seem like the type of person that who is anti-Brexit, but opinion aside, a rational person cannot say without laughing that it's been handled well. I mean, it hasn't been handled competently. It's been handled like a man coated in lubricant being handed a baby and not just dropping it, but having no physical contact at all and being completely unaware of the mere concept of touch. But I digress. Because like I say, how could things get any worse? What about America? Yes, the ongoing TV drama that is the Trump administration. And again, as a non-political person, I can't really say much about it. I'm not American, and I have no influence over their political systems. However, I do know one thing. Donald Trump is a darn maniac. Yes. Well, in fact, along with Boris Johnson, he's almost the leader we as a world deserve. Right? A gaslighting, double-speaking blob of humanity that is more about show than anything else. And being president isn't a duty. It's the role of a lifetime. It's the ultimate reality show, and we're the stars. Much like most of the stars from reality TV, we're suffering from the exposure. Again, that may just be global warming, and as bad as Trump is, as bad as Boris and his Brexiteers are, it would actually take something so immense, something that would make the likes of murder hornets and meth alligators seem like a light diversion in the news. Of course, I'm talking about the coronavirus, because ultimately that's what 2020 is going to be remembered for, not Brexit, not Trump's impeachment, not even a whole country the size of Australia being on fire. Hell, not even the recent protests regarding long-term terribleness like racism, anti-trans ideologies and sexual assault can claim their stamp on this year. No. COVID-19 has taken the mantle about what 2020 was all about and run with it like a coffin moron when the pubs reopened. To merely say we are in a pandemic now is simply a universal truth. We are in a pandemic and people are dying by the thousands. Severe measures have been put into place to aid our own safety, and people have decided that, much like the anti-vaxxers, they know better than the experts. Go back a year or two. Sell that idea again, that there would be a global pandemic, thousands dying, countries being locked down for weeks on end. And do you think I'd be telling you the latest movie fad? After all, the last proper evil virus we had was the bird flu, and we jolly well got over that, didn't we? Ditto swine flu, Ebola, the plague. So a pandemic, go back to Hollywood. Sir Scares a lot. I bet they'd love your tales of Chinese conspiracies and 5G towers. Okay, well, that's a bit fictional because we all know conspiracies are stupid. Anyway, we're not even 3/4 of the way through this year, and we already have been experiencing an event that will be taught in history lessons for time immemorial. This is not an interesting time, it's an unprecedented time. A time where lives have literally been changed. Things that were normal, that we took for granted, forever jarred toward an unknown future. This isn't just a little blip that we can laugh on about on Twitter. This is actually serious. Like I say, while I recognise it's horrendous, I'm actually finding some peace to it all. If you recall, before I went on a current affairs rant, to get us all up to speed, I said that 2019 ended about as well as a dog eating jalapenos. All I wanted to do was look to recover through isolation, removal of the pressures of life, and focus on fixing my own brain from various mental health woes. So naturally, entering a time where the government are telling you to stay indoors, avoid socialising, work from home, well, it was like a wish I had been granted from a monkey's paw. I'm not saying that the coronavirus is a good thing. I mean, not even been great for me. That would involve a total lack of awareness, only seen in prominent politicians. Instead, I feel I've gained from 2020 rather than lost from it. I've returned to Southampton. I'm closer to my family and my closest friends. I am recognised as being so badly mental that I'm actually disabled. I even released a new book after a fallow period of creativity. So while the mimetic Karens of the world are bemoaning not being able to get their hair done, or not being able to bring hordes of children into parks, I'm enjoying having the time to read books that I haven't read, watch the films I haven't watched, and just embrace some peace and quiet. Of course, I haven't done those things. I still have the aforementioned mental health stuff, and like most of us during this lockdown, have adopted procrastination with an almost religious fever. But still, it could be worse, and probably will be, because the next time somebody says it can't get any worse, that monkey's paw is going to curl another finger, and we'll all be affected with vampire ducks or rabid Nigel Farage.